Hi everyone, Janelle here. I'm a functional nutritionist and doctor of natural medicine. This is my podcast where we talk about midlife wellness in the mountains. Today I'm talking with my sensational and wise friend, Nicole Koch. Nicole has studied, practiced, and taught yoga for over 30 years. She also teaches Qigong, breathwork, all about flow states and deep relaxation. I loved this quote from her website. Quote, "To me, yoga has little to do with pretty poses and everything to do with understanding who we are at our core and how we connect to the world around us." End quote. I brought Nicole on the podcast today to discuss autumn. We chat about what Chinese medicine teaches us about autumn, what our intuition teaches us, why it's so important to lean into the season and the cycles, how perimenopause and Ayurveda align with autumn, and ways we can lean into autumn to feel our best. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about what I am going to call autumn medicine, meaning the ways we can use different ancient practices, spiritual teachings, natural rhythms, foods, all to support our health, our hormones, our mood, and just to enhance our experience as humans living on this sweet earth for this one life that we have. So I've been wanting to bring you on the podcast for a while, but it hit me last week in Qigong class that we needed to talk about autumn and autumn medicine. And I don't know about you, but I love this time of year and the changes that the season invites us to lean into, but I know not everyone does, and that's okay. But I think if we let ourselves lean into the fall and lean into what it has to teach us, we have an opportunity to come into alignment with the present moment and even like the truest version of ourselves, which can feel incredible. So when you were speaking in Qigong, about autumn medicine, it blew my mind with how it aligned with both Ayurvedic wisdom, hormonal cycle wisdom, and also just like our natural fall intuition, our autumn intuition. So before I ask you the first question, welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so happy. So why don't you start out by sharing with us what what it is that Qigong teaches us about the autumn or what it has to offer us, what wisdom?
Um, yeah, again, thank you for having me on. I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled to talk about Qigong. Qigong has been a super exciting modality for me to be teaching. It kind of brings together, just exactly like you said, all of these practices. It just dovetails, everything just dovetails with sort of all of the medicine that you and I work in. Um, I think the of course I've gone on a tangent, and the question was about Qigong and fall, right? And what it how it brings in fall. Um, Fall is our first tapping into moving away from this really yangy, fiery, activated season of the summertime, this doing and this creating and this bright light and this just being super out there. It's our transition into the yin, really starting to root down time in the year. So it's a huge transitional period, and it's also one of my favorite periods too, being somebody with a background in restorative and yin yoga, these really grounded, rooted practices. Um, it's really a time to start shedding layers and letting go. I think that there's this big there's a lot of talk around the fall and the falling leaves and letting go, and that's a huge part of the season and this rooting and grounding. But there's also this part that brings in sort of this discernment. So it's not only shedding the leaves and letting go, but it's also being discerning of what you're holding on to. So it's healthy attachment on one side, and then this beautiful releasing and letting go in the other. So I know for me, I just shed a bunch of my October calendar, and it felt absolutely incredible. It was like
Mm.
plan, 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 weekend, weekend. And we went through the calendar, and it was just like, this weekend's going, this weekend's going. I want to spend my energy being here and grounded and rooted. So it's really not only just this beautiful opportunity to start grounding and rooting and releasing and letting go, but also this beautiful time of processing what also resonates and what also is meant to stick. So it's this very transitory period, just as a start, right? So many other things to say, but as a start, this beautiful period.
I love that you started it off with that. And it's so funny because we're both so excitable about the things we love. And I just like want to go into so much already about what you've already mentioned and how that aligns with so many different philosophies. But what you said was it's a time of shedding. So if we allow ourselves to take a step back and slow down and let things go, let a little bit of that busyness go, then we can see what emerges and where we actually want to focus our attention. And I think in our modern world, it's easy to just get going, 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 caught up, caught up, caught up. So, one of the cool things about the seasons is they invite us into different paces. And you said that, for Chinese medicine, the summer is a time of fire. And same with Ayurveda, it's a time of fire and pitta. And then we shift into the fall and it's a time of grounding, like you said, and shedding and slowing down. So I love all of that. I think there's so much medicine in each of those points.
But also, I think is beautiful about the fall season is that it's a transition. We have this opportunity before we drop into the really rooted, grounded, hibernating of winter to transition from this fire energy. So it's a process, right? That's what's so cool about the seasons and the seasons of Chinese medicine. You get 5 of them with late summer. It's this gradual process. So we almost get to practice dropping into winter and that way I absolutely love it. It's this slow falling away, this sort of assimilating and integrating, and you have time to shift. So I love that about it too.
Yeah. And it's almost like if we don't take this time, we can't appreciate, like we might fight winter, like a
Yeah.
lot of people like don't like the darkness. Um and so if we don't take this set time to transition and to slow down and listen, then our whole experience of the rest of the seasons can be quite different. And I find it fascinating. I don't know about you, but I feel like in our modern world, we have air conditioning, we have lights, we have refrigeration, so we have shipping of food. So like there's so many ways we can pretend that we don't live in a seasonal world and a cyclical world. We can just try to hold on and make our world what we want it to be, day in, day out. But the truth is we evolved, right, for like hundreds of thousands of years at the pace of the seasons. And if we fight that again, I just think we're missing out on this depth and this enjoyment in life. But okay, that was a bit of a tangent. Um, can you take us back to a little bit before we move on to some other things about Qigong in particular? Because I loved what you said in class about it was the season of the lungs. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. Each season in Chinese medicine and Qigong corresponds to its own organ pair. So the yin organ of the fall is the lungs, and then the yang organ, its paired organ, is the large intestine. And what's cool about those two organs, it kind of goes back to that holding on and letting go, both of those organs, the lungs, with every inhale, and you're taking in what you need. With every exhale, you're releasing what's time to let go. And the same with the large intestine being sort of the last, the penultimate process of before we excrete what no longer serves. It's still removing that last bit of nutrients. What can I still use here before releasing and letting go? So it is still this beautiful balance of healthy attachment and what is still resonating and what's letting go. So those organs correspond perfectly, right, to the season of what we're talking about, of just this slow releasing, like, hey, maybe this is still serving, but the rest is letting go. And it's again, it's a process, and it's an inhalation and an exhalation, and it's expansion and a contraction. And I love the concept, the idea of the leaf hanging on the tree, that it lets go when it's ready to let go. Like maybe it's about to let go, and then it's not quite ready, and it still just sticks on by a strand, and then the wind blows, and then it finally makes its way softly down. It's a process. It's a process. So yeah, that's how the season, the simplest explanation, we were laughing about how we could go into a million different tangents, but the simplest explanation of how beautifully that works and how it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And just the mindfulness and the awareness of it helps us reflect on our own life in those ways and to take the time to do that. And the thing that really surprised me last week when I heard you talking about this in class was how much that aligns with Ayurveda, which is from India, both very old, like Chinese medicine. And in Ayurveda, the fall is it's the time of the Vata, but that doesn't even matter if you don't know what that means because it's also a time of air and windiness, which kind of reminds me of the lungs. And the goals during the fall in Ayurvedic medicine is to ground also and to keep things moist and warm. And so those are like the things we try to do in Ayurveda to stay balanced in the season so that we stay super aligned. And I just love that these cultures super far away. I mean, there's such similarities, right? Like, isn't that kind of cool?
I think that's why you and I are getting so excited about Qigong. For me, it was just like this drop in of all of these practices that just made such beautiful, simple sense. Just the it all comes together so beautifully, the connection with nature and watching animals and just being in nature and what comes in literally naturally, that 4,000 years ago, here, there, and everywhere, maybe in different parts of the planet, they were all receiving the same message because they were so connected to nature and the wind and connected to the internal nature, connected to the external nature. And it just makes sense around the world, right? Once you sit in that space.
Yeah, and
So,
it blows our mind, but it shouldn't because it's
right.
like it just goes to show how disconnected we are and how if we are connected, it really there is kind of like just a truth,
Simplicity.
a simplicity, a truth
Yeah.
that we can come into, but we really have to slow down in order to do that, I think. And I think both of you and I have like super excitable personalities and and I do think that the fall inherently is balancing for us because it is grounding. It is letting go. It's all about routine. Like the routine is very soothing to that airy, spaciousness to come back to those routines. So, what are some like, do you have some fall routines, like either that align with Qigong, or like we could maybe start in one place and go to the other, or just, just your natural rhythms of fall, different traditions? Like, do you have different things, Nicole?
So one, like I mentioned before, that was so liberating was the clearing of the calendar. That's not something I do as a practice, but it felt very in line with this time of year, and it felt so good to just, I don't need to keep going at the pace of summer and, events and sports and vacations and whatever. It's like October does not need to proceed along the same path as June, July, August, September. So I think and that's not a routine per se, but I think it was a practice that felt incredibly good and very aligned. I'd say that, I mean, the practices that I teach, yin and restorative and qigong, are super aligned with the season. I also just, I think in general, love the permission. I don't know about you, but when it starts getting colder, we're having an unseasonably sort of hot fall right now, which keeps us out. But the permission when we had snow like a month ago to just curl up in a ball on the couch, it's almost just like this. It's I don't know that we need permission anymore, but perhaps our modern society needs permission to see the snow outside, to have this opportunity to curl up. And it just feels much better in some ways to curl up on the couch with a blanket when it's not 85 degrees, when it starts to get cool and it starts to get dark. So um I think the longer that I've been practicing in being connected to these seasons, the easier it is to just almost naturally resonate with them, to go to bed earlier, to start drinking those warm drinks, to just make these natural transitions. So in this moment, I wouldn't say that I have any um sort of scheduled routines around it. It's more just the enthusiasm for allowing it to all come in and flow with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's probably because you are in tune with the
Mhm.
changes
Right.
and you do notice them and you embrace them and lean into it. And I think what you said is really important. I think we do have to give ourselves permission, and I do think that is a really cool component of the changing of the seasons because I mean, maybe after this, you can kind of just explain yin and yang better, but like our world is so fast paced, go, 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 achieve, 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 do, 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 which is it's very summer,
Right. Right.
like, and then as the days get darker, it is a natural time of drawing inside and less focus becomes on go, go, go in the outside world. And I think the darkness this season invites us more inside. And I think we do need to get that permission because
Yeah.
otherwise we're told to keep going hard, to keep doing, to keep signing up. And I love that about the fall is I do feel like I have permission to just say no more and slow down more.
Agree. Agree. And it is a as you and I are talking about it, and you said to me, and I'd probably reflect back to you that it is because we have so much experience in it. So I guess maybe between the two of us, it can get taken for granted that they're, and that's what you said, that we do need permission. And I do focus a lot of classes, restorative yin, qigong. It is giving people permission, especially in a town like you and I live in, where we are summery all the time, even in the middle of winter, right? We're hitting into the climbing wall, we're out skiing, we're out doing all the things. It's like stays fiery. That it is a practice to reconnect and have this permission to turn inward and to slow down. And you're totally right. Like it's a remembering. I was teaching in a recently around just the practice of remembering. This isn't new information, right? We were saying how simple it is. This is a remembering of what's innate to us and how directly connected to nature we are. And all of the information and the things you and I are talking about are something that already exists within us and so already exists with outside of us. It's remembering, right? So to teach people to remember how connected we are and to just start bringing more awareness. And with awareness comes flow, right?
I mean, how empowering. Like, what an empowering message in a world where it's like, buy this supplement, take, do this protocol, learn, learn, learn. Like, what you're speaking into, Nicole, is like, we have this wisdom. We have all of what we need, really. And again, that permission to slow down and tap in is is really what the fall invites us to do. And then we can discover that, oh, we'll come up with our own rituals that feel
Yes.
good and
Yes.
align with the fall. It's like so much, we rely on religions or holidays or something. And I started again this morning my fall ritual, which is lighting a candle every morning.
Mm,
And it just feels good because it's darker when I wake up. And I just love the moment of peace when I light the candle and smell the fire and take a moment to just think about my day and what I want. And like, it's funny how many religions have that, but I don't practice a structured religion, but I just intuitively like wanted to do that. And to some people, they're like, why do you do that? I'm like, it just feels good. So you can do whatever feels good. And
yes. Yes. And I think exactly what you're talking about is what I was just reading something all around. We kind of notice in the world that we're in, but ceremony. The ceremony was a huge part of these transitions, and it still is all around the world. There's like moon cake ceremonies in China, like this huge celebration of the transition of the season. And what you're doing is ceremony, and that's what we've lost. So I think it's really cool that you just brought that in, that lighting a candle is a ceremony. It's a celebration. It's a reminder, and that's so important in what we've moved away from. So bringing something like that back in is really cool.
right, that's a great point. It's like a break in the day to say,
Mm.
okay, wait, pause. What's happening here? Like, let's be mindful of the moment. And otherwise, it just all kind of blends together. Same with the
Right.
seasons. I feel like life just kind of, woo, it's busy. It just blends together. But then when we take those moments to lean into the season, it's like that pause, that morning candle. It's like, okay, what's going on? Let's reevaluate. What do I want more of? What do I want less of? Um, how can I shift my day to day? Because we're not the same all the time. 365 days a year. Like we need a break, just like the flowers do and the leaves do and all the things. So,
Absolutely.
okay. So I wanted to talk to you about something more. And I've been trying to not bring it up too soon, but like the really, another, not the, but like another really cool part of all of this that just blows my mind and is so exciting is when we look at hormone cycles.
Mm.
So we're talking about the seasonal cycles now and Qigong and Ayurveda. But when we look at the seasons and hormones, it is so in alignment with what we're saying, Nicole. So I learned a lot of this from the women at the Red School, which is just a brilliant little school and brilliant women. But what they teach is hormonally, all of our different phases for women when we're cycling that fall, and I can't go into all of it obviously, but fall aligns with the luteal phase of our cycle. So that part of our cycle when progesterone is getting high and before our period, and so that naturally is a time that we go inside a bit and that we become more intuitive and creative, and it's a time to kind of like take stock in what we have and how things are. And I mean, I think that alone is so cool. But then when we like whoop, move out even a little bit more, our phases of life, what aligns with fall is perimenopause. So, I mean, how cool that again, it's a time where we get a little bit rocked and it invites us to look in who we are and like just like we move from summer to fall with light, same with perimenopause. Like at first we're like ovulating, go, 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 fiery light. And then the days start to get a little bit darker. And before the winter comes, we have to say, like, okay, who am I? What do I want? Like, how do I come into alignment with the truest version of myself? Right. And like, that's fall. How mind blowing.
It's so exciting, and I know we could have an entire another podcast, and we will have some session around all this because it's so exciting to me too, and I don't know about all of that. And yeah, like you said, it's another mind-boggling dovetail and connection, that this is all so aligned and connected. And imagine the ramifications and the implications of us all getting on board this ship together, of finding this connection, because there is such, you and I had met before and we were just talking about this big push toward um for better or for worse, pharmaceuticals, and it has to be this way, and oh, you reach this phase of life and now you need this patch, you need this thing. And not saying that that's bad or good, but just another remembering that. And I remember you saying this, and this stuck with me, that it's just another transitional phase. It's just another transition. It's just another time period, right? It's a cycle, and these seasons pass, right? So you may be shedding layers and moving out, and then it's coming into this deeper, more introspective time, and then you come back out of that time. And if you're connecting this to the cycle of women's life, and menopause and perimenopause, you do come back out of perimenopause, through menopause, through the wintering menopause, and then this whole new layer, which is incredible. And in Chinese medicine, when the uterus is no longer the main functioning thing, it moves up to what's known as the Shen, right? And this part of the woman is less important, is less prominent, and it moves up into the spirit of the woman. So it's this reawakening. We have this tendency in modern culture to be like, bad, 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 aging bad, this bad, fix this, fix that. And it's not a fixing time. It's like you said, it's an introspective time. I'm just in my cycle right now, and I've spent I passed out on the couch a couple times. I slept in this morning. And it was like that permission, I think, aligned with the season at the same time felt luxurious, right? Like the fall and just needing the sleep. Everything you're saying is like, it really is. It's just, it's such an exciting time to empower women in this way, for us all to show up at Qigong and all to show up in a practice that's teaching us how to be empowered as we move through these seasons of life. It's so cool what you say. It could go on, and I know you could too, but it's awesome.
I mean, I love that idea. I've never heard that before, but that idea of in Chinese medicine, how you move from down in your pelvic region to up, and it's like an up leveling, and how now you get to go in your spiritual self. And
Yeah.
if you cling on to what was, you're never going to get to that next point. And again, I feel like just practicing leaning into fall and the increased darkness and the things dying and outside, it's practice. This is all practice for all of the different phases of life. And the more we cling and hold on, I don't know, like what you said, we don't up level into that spiritual realm. And I just think like that's my goal. Like I want to be where I'm at and explore this season so I can fully embrace the next season and keep moving through the cycle.
And growth is painful, right? Change is painful. Transition is painful. And that's the whole teaching, is to lean into the discomfort, right? And we, as a society, do not want to feel, like you were touching on before, don't want to feel discomfort. We don't want to feel menopause. We don't want to feel hot flashes. We're just told, because we are told this is bad, make it go away, right? Make it go away. I saw this a little bit tangential here, but I saw this ad. Hopefully this doesn't feel like I'm being on a pulpit, because sometimes I get up on my soapbox, but it was, drinking too much wine, not feeling good anymore. Literally try this patch. Like if this isn't working, put a patch on it. Like not change your behavior because you're in a time of life where maybe this isn't resonating with your body. Don't listen to that message, put a patch on it. Right. So it's like, oh my God, I had to give up coffee in the last 2 weeks just because right now whatever my body is doing, I don't need to over question it. It was like, please, let's lay off. So, and none of it's permanent. I'm not going into saying I'm never having coffee again, or, you know, like going back to what you were saying, just about the transition in life, that it's a temporary period and it might feel uncomfortable. What happens if we lean into that discomfort, and that's not to say you have to sit being miserable. I'm not discrediting people's totally crazy experiences by any stretch. So I don't want it to come across that way. We all need assistance and support where we can get it. But as a general idea, what happens if we get real curious with what's happening? What does this mean? What does this hot flash mean? What does this anxiety mean? I had some crazy anxiety that I hadn't felt before. And it's like, what is the message here? Is it just slow down? Maybe it's slow down and get some outside assistance. But let's not forget the message that our body is trying to tell us, and like take the pause and the rooting, because in that discomfort comes the growth and comes the transition. And if we allow ourselves to go through it, it comes back into this beautiful place. And I think that's kind of the big lesson for all of us here, including myself, you.
I think so much of what you just said was so beautiful. And I just want to double click on how you emphasized the importance of curiosity,
Mm.
like with all the things, like curious what your body's telling you, curious why you're holding on to that habit, curious what, like just curiosity, just what you said. If we all do nothing more than slow down and get curious, I mean, I just feel like that would be so transformational, and trust the process. Like fall, that's what we're here to talk about. And you and I said, "Do is it going to be enough to talk about fall?" Like, hell yeah, it is, because
Right.
there's so many lessons. And I love, even at the very beginning, you started off by saying the fall is all about teaching us to let go, and we see the beautiful leaves turn their brightest color and let go and fall to the ground. And if we are slowing down and if we're being curious, we get to let go of everything that isn't a hell yes. And especially in perimenopause, The fall asks us to do this, and then perimenopause, because it's the season of the fall, asks us to do this too. And then we can put our attention into where we want it to be, like what we want to grow more of.
I love that. Imagine if we could just blast that message out there and it resonates with me, what you're saying. I did not know that fall is the season of perimenopause. Incredible. What an opportunity. What an opportunity that you have the space to transition peacefully and curiously and just what is happening. What is my next phase when I come into this heart spirit, this new iteration of myself. But I have this whole fall to, like, instead of be fear of the wintering, like, wow, what if I surrender to this next stage? What a different concept of going into this phase of life. Love it.
Right. And so let's talk about, like, before we end, which we're about out of time, but just to quickly wrap up, like, let's just give everyone a few. I mean, you mentioned a couple already, but just like a few concrete things. If they're like, hell yeah, I want to lean into fall, but I have no idea how. Like, what are just like a few things that we can think about doing? So, we already mentioned slow down. So, maybe that means every morning, light a candle and think about, how do I want my day to feel? Like, what do I want to feel more of today? Okay. That's just like one off the cuff thing. I mean, what do you think?
I like in its most simplistic form with whatever is coming in. This has been a really profound and powerful practice for me that whatever is coming in, where do I feel it in my body? Right? If the world is coming at me, or if I'm having an unpleasant conversation, or if I'm going through, we didn't even tap on grief, which is the emotion of the fall. So another time, but say it is grief, which is the emotion of the fall season. Where am I feeling it in my body? Not what's the story that I'm telling myself and what can I explain to Janelle about why I'm grieving and what's happened, but where am I feeling it in my body? It is the simplest, most powerful, profound way to shift and move energy is to take the pause and feel the feels, right? Allow yourself to feel the feels, to feel the discomfort. Where am I feeling that in my body? Where am I feeling this resistance in my body? Am I feeling it in my heart? Am I feeling it in my stomach? Am I just taking time to notice that I am resisting this pain in my shoulder, this grief in my heart, this, stiffness of my lungs, whatever? It's very easy to get reactive and start telling the story and start Googling what's going on with you physically, mentally, emotionally. Where do I feel it in my body? And it's that simple. I think it's really bringing in the curiosity. And I think that speaks volumes to this transitory period, transitional period, because the answer will ultimately come. We're not begging for it to come. We're literally allowing ourselves to be with what is.
All right. So slowing down to do that, I think that is a incredibly powerful thing people can do. And I love that. What you said earlier, letting go of things, say no, get things off your calendar, stay curious. I also like to bring in the stews and the soups, that warming component of
Mm-hmm.
fall, eating fall foods, warming spices. Um, like, there's small little tangible things we can do like that, and then there's deeper work, like you mentioned, that also can be super transformational. So I love talking to you, Nicole. I think you have so much wisdom to share with the world and so much brilliance. I'm so happy you're teaching these Qigong classes, and of course, you still teach lots of yoga and have just so much brilliance. So thank you so much for sharing and joining me today. I really am grateful.
Thank you so much. Likewise. Such a thrill to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully you can come back again and we can talk about some other things. But thanks so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Bye bye. That's it for this week. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and a review, as that helps it reach more people. You can find me and the courses I teach, the Midlife Hormone Club and the Energy Club, online at Mountain Rebalance. I help midlife women understand their body and age better. If that sounds like you, please join my newsletter. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover here or an expert you want me to have on, let me know. In the meantime, keep playing, and here's to aging our best.